Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are doing well. With the recent announcement that Tamashii Nations is adding Berserk to the Figuarts line, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about what they could potentially do in the future, as it does seem like they're adding just basically a big arsenal of the shonen manga space, as well as a lot of different stuff anime-wise, just overall into the lines as a whole. It's pretty crazy just to see how far it's been expanding and what lines that they've been doing over the years. And there are a few that, come to mind when you start to think, well, what are some new generation new generation animes that are, shonen based that they could do, as well as older ones that haven't really been touched upon in a while by other, companies and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought that would be pretty cool to talk about. But it is pretty surprising for them to announce a Berserk line essentially on Sunday, probably for them, I would think. But still, pretty crazy. I don't know anything about Berserk, so my knowledge is very little about that. So I will have to start actually maybe reading it, because I've heard it's not the best in terms of anime stuff yet, but we'll see. But yeah, so first I just wanted to kind of talk about Black Clover. Now I know Black Clover is not the most crazy popular thing out there, right? I know it's got a pretty decent fan base. I myself have watched everything so far that has come out. I know it's getting a movie this year still, I think. But I do think it would be an interesting one to add to the line. I mean, I don't think I needed, to come back in any grandiose way where it's as big as, Naruto or anything like that. It could be that thing that they tap into here and there. Eventually, maybe, completing the Black Bulls, I would imagine, if they did that. But I do think it's got its own unique thing with kind of that wizard magic space again that hasn't really been touched upon too much, I feel in at least that space. Then again, this is also something that Figma could do themselves, but I don't know what Figma's priorities are. They kind of tap into everything and then take the weirdest breaks in between doing stuff, and then reissues are I guess what you'd say rare for some stuff. And I know that's why a lot of people also appreciate Tamashii announcing this, because now they don't have to wait for the Figma version. And I've seen some opinions about Figma's will look better still, while yes, Tamashii will have the better articulation. I'm curious to see how people will keep that opinion later when we get an actual reveal. I don't expect the first reveal to be the best looking figure of all time, but with how well that they've been moving along the last few years especially, I do think that the figure itself could look amazing, all right, on top of having good articulation. So don't doubt Tamashii when it comes to design. They can do pretty good. But yeah, I think that Black Clover could be a good one. But also Hunter x Hunter. I have not watched the show, but I have heard many good things about it. And I am aware that there was a Kahlua, and I think his name is Gon or something like that, that were made by Figma. And I've looked at the prices of those. They look kind of cool, but they're way too high, right? So if Tamashii ever wanted to dabble in something like this, and I'm pretty sure it's still an ongoing series, right? I think it's just going through long breaks or something like that. I have to, again, I'm not invested so much into these other series that I'm going to be talking about, but it is something that I think brings a good conversation. And the ones that I'm going to be talking about isn't the end all be all of my thought process. It really just expands to anything shonen, as well as maybe some other stuff, but mostly shonen. I could see them, doing the ones that are really popular these days. And ones that hold a really big house name that you just can't not know what, even if you've never watched it, you've heard of it somewhere, right? That's kind of my thought process there. But yeah, I think that they could definitely do these characters justice. I mean, short characters would be interesting. I mean, they're still working on that right now, so maybe not, but I could see them improving in due time. They're making their improvements articulation wise. And we call it 3.0, but you've seen how well, even just in the 3.0 space, the engineering has continued to improve. So bringing that down to a smaller scale for a lot of these characters that are kind of what I assume to be kids could be, pretty cool, articulation wise, and the effects. I mean, if Tamashii starts to kind of value those effects a little bit more and include them with other characters, it could be really cool. Yu Yu Hakusho is also one that I hear a lot about. Now, I've seen that Dawson Model has been making these, but it'd be interesting to see Tamashii also take this on. Um, they don't really do fabric clothing like that, so it would be something a little different that I think people have been seeing, like with the Dawson Model stuff. But that is something I don't see like Tamashii. It let me go back on that. Tamashii can do it, but I just feel like they don't. And I get that some people have the expectation that it's like the aesthetic doesn't match. But I mean, if you use vibrant colors and you're not using dull colors, it can work. Like if you've seen the Sab jackets that are from Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, and you see them on Goku and Vegeta figures, they look really good, despite them being fabric, and the rest of the outfit obviously being plastic. It looks pretty good. So I mean, it just depends on like how well you do it and what kind of colors you choose to go with that aesthetic. So I mean, it's not something I could see totally out of the realm of possibility. But if they were to tap into Yu Yu Hakusho, it'd be an interesting kind of back and forth, because you also see how they're doing Bleach, right? Where they are not really deciding to use fabric for some of the portions of Ichigo's body, for the legs especially. Same for Geto from Jujutsu Kaisen. They've decided not to use fabric for a lot of the stuff. It's soft plastic, as well as the legs being similar to Ichigo, I would assume. So it's a little bit of back and forth. I think that there's going to be a little bit of teeter-tottering when it comes to stuff like that, if they were to dwell in this kind of stuff. And one of the last ones I have on here that is not the end of the conversation, but it is Attack on Titan. Now, Attack on Titan has, I don't know how many notable Titans that people are super familiar with. I'm barely starting the series, so my knowledge is small. But I do feel like if they were to do this one, right, a lot of people's expectation could be set too high, because you're never going to get the scale you want for these figures, right? Like Galactus size, right? You're not going to get that every year. So when they do Titans and stuff, I think the expectation that people would want to have is like 1/12 scale. You know, I could see them maybe making it high, like a little taller than Vegeta, but it wouldn't be something that's that reoccurring, right? It'd be like a once in a 5-year to 10-year span, I feel, because it depends. Also, you got to think about this too. With as many lines as they keep on adding, and with Dragon Ball being what feels like a staple in that whole space, I don't see these getting more than maybe like, and I'm just talking in a future sense, if they were to add another line, right? Like obviously this conversation, you know, is hypothetical in the sense, but if they were to add any one of these, or another show that has been under the radar or just starting, like Hell's Paradise, for example, you know, the amount of releases you'd get is not going to be that big, right? Like I see why Naruto and One Piece are getting 3 lines to start. Bleach, I don't know. Bleach is an interesting one. Bleach is pretty popular, but I don't see them doing like more than 2 releases a year for Bleach at this point, just because they haven't said anything else about any other characters. Whereas Naruto, they've already announced not what the third character is, but that the third character would be announced. That'll be coming out this year. They already have 4 characters from Naruto, you know, the revived version of the line, out. They've got the revived line of One Piece. They already teased Yamato for Onigashima arc. So yeah, it's a little bit not bloated, but a little bit too cramped, I guess you could say. So they add another line. I'm not expecting it to go super crazy hardcore with releases. That's just how it is. I don't know if that'll change when Dragon Ball starts to become a lot more condensed with what they have to cover. Because at this rate, they are gonna, what seems to be, do everything that is canon, and what everything that is canon, not canon, but everything that is mainline canon and original Z movies and super movies, and the occasional game crossover if it's warranted. That's kind of what seems the direction they're going. But for Attack on Titan, like that's just how I feel in terms of those giant big characters that everybody is familiar with. Eren Yeager, Titan form, stuff like that. But for the regular, characters that are in the I guess you could say the army, I'm again just starting. So terms are not the best for me right now when it comes to all that. But the people who are fighting the Titans, right? You could do some really cool stuff with them. But yeah, it wouldn't be anything super, I guess, crazy, and it would take a long time for them to really like get through anything. So it'd probably be like those things where they boil it down to, well, what's the most popular thing people are interested in from that series? Oh, the newest form, or not newest form, but the newest look for Eren Yeager. Okay, we could do that. Cool. We'll fit it into somewhere in the next 2-3 years, whatever, when they do their planning. But also, this brings into a question of more lines getting revived, right? We've had 2 revived lines, One Piece and Naruto. Things like Pokemon, for example. Will that ever come back? Because when I got into this last year, I tell you, like, I looked up Ash, I looked up Team Rocket, and the fact that those had already been out for like a good while, and they're already in like the hundreds, I was like, wow, it would be so cool if they had an ongoing Pokemon line, right? There's a lot of untapped potential in that market with figures. I think Figma does okay, but I think that there's like a whole spew of characters you can do just from the original, anime to the original games, and all that kind of stuff. Pokemon, I guess, if you want to, but I don't expect that to be like a big thing. Figma, from what I've seen, they'll include a few Pokemon and maybe like a bigger Pokemon, like the same size as the character, maybe not too big that it's outside the box, right? Like it can't fit inside the box. But yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. Was that something that you guys would consider wanting to return? Because I think that it also comes with the outcry for that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know where they got their analytics from to see that most people might want to be interested in Berserk. But definitely they got that from somewhere, because you can't just randomly announce a new line like that without having some backup to say, there's people definitely interested in that kind of stuff from SH Figuarts perspective. So I think with that, like with whatever new stuff that they choose, it really comes down to like us as consumers, what they see on social media, people talking about a lot, and I guess what they deem as really popular. So, like for example, I knew nothing about Hell's Paradise, but it seems like that's a pretty, popular manga that was going on for a while. It's got a really good looking anime now. Like it looks really beautiful. I've not watched it yet, but from the trailers and stuff, it looks really great. And a lot of people praised the first 2 episodes that have come out already. So, seems pretty like it had the really good backing behind it before it even had its anime variant come out, and it's already got 2 figures in the line coming. So yeah, it's a pretty crazy thing when you look at it, and there's just too much untapped potential for whatever they could choose in the future, right? And that's the same thing kind of applies to this conversation with just Berserk as well. We don't know how often they would really consider doing releases for that line. So if this is something you guys are also interested in, be sure to like show your support for it through socials, because you don't really want this stuff to like die out if it's really like meaningful to you. And it's kind of a thing that you got to keep in mind. Like, it's all about interest. So if there's no interest for it, they won't focus on it as much, and it kind of takes a back seat. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just kind of wanted to bring that conversation up because I just was sitting here thinking about it, and I was like, wow, all these different things that just keep coming, right? I know nothing about Berserk, but what happens when they announce like the revival of Pokemon or something? Like, it could just be really cool for the future. And I mean, granted, I don't want to spend more money. No one wants to spend more money, but if it's for like a favorite series, I mean, I'll be invested. So I'm really excited to see like kind of where the future of Tamashii Nations goes with these different lines for SH Figuarts, just because there's so much they've been doing already, and I just can't wait to see what else comes. But yeah, let me know down in the comments, like, what kind of stuff would you like to see them do? Put some different shonen stuff that you would like to see maybe, or I guess other anime series or manga that hasn't either been adapted or has a really good backing behind it. I was thinking to myself earlier, stuff like Beyblade, Bakugan characters, but then I thought maybe this stuff could be for Figma as well. But think about it. Like, these are not. I'm not talking in the sense of let's get a whole like character with a whole bunch of accessories and whatnot. Let's say it's a Beyblade character from like Beyblade Metal Fusions or something. It's like Ryuga, and he comes with his little cape, jacket thing, and a few faces. He comes with the Beyblade launcher. He comes a little mini Beyblade hand, like a hand holding the Beyblade, and some other little cool accessories, I guess. Little his hands and maybe some small effect or something. That'd be pretty cool. You ask me, and it'd be a pretty easy general release. It caters to the kids, caters to people who are longtime fans of series like that. It's just something to think about. Like, they could really take this far and wide when it comes to the future of figures from them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I will catch you guys in the next video. Wanted to bring a little discussion. You guys let me know what you think below. Peace.